All right, guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Chew's Views, and I'm Richard Chew. So I say this all the time because I like to give our folks flowers in real time, and our leadership on a state level is better than the other team. It just is. Folks just deal with it, accept it, embrace it, and say, okay, let me roll with these folks because they're getting it done. Richard Carlbom is the chair of the Minnesota Democratic Farm Labor Party, DFL as it's commonly known. And he's back with us this morning. So, Richard, good morning and welcome back to Chew's Views. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, as I say oftentimes, let's just dive into the deep end of the pool. Lots of happening across the country with our primaries in other states, but certainly right there in yours. We had ours earlier in the year, back in the late winter, early spring. But talk to us about some of the results that came in. Talk to us about how folks are feeling. I know I'm ready to throw a particular Republican under the bus because you and I'll have some fun with that. But let's talk about our team first. What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So August 11th, we had a primary about a week and a half ago, and I got to tell you, people turned out. I measure the strength of our democracy by how many people want to participate, and we broke records on August 11th. We had more than 1.1 million people vote in our primary election in Minnesota, biggest turnout ever for a primary election, and 63% of them voted on the DFL side of the ballot, which was just astounding. In fact, for example, our winning U.S. Senate candidate on the Democratic side, Peggy Flanagan, who is our nominee to run for our open U.S. Senate seat, got more votes than every Republican combined on the other side, which just demonstrates how strong our candidate is coming out of that election. Really, one of the great stats. I don't know if we've ever done this before, but every single candidate who is endorsed by the Democratic Farmer Labor Party in Minnesota, the DFL, every single candidate endorsed won their competitive primary. We've defended 100% of our endorsements, so we're feeling pretty good about our success.
Yeah, we are too. I mean, we're neighboring states. And I'm just going to say it. I know we got Wisconsin is in between, but if we press Wisconsin hard enough, Richard, you and I can lean in hard enough. I'm not the state party chair, but I'm going to lean in with you and many other great leaders. We can get Wisconsin back on track. We can keep Minnesota on track. We can keep Illinois on track. Hopefully we can get our brothers and sisters over in Michigan to do the right thing and stay on track there. And God willing, we get some good headwinds in Ohio. These 5 core, Midwestern states, and nobody in Iowa would get upset with me. Don't get upset. But these 5, we'll call them the Great Lakes states. How about that? That way we won't get anybody's business too much. If we can keep and then gain in those states, we're really saying something. And I think right now, the kind of leadership that you're showing, it's happening. And it's happening because this is what I'm hearing, Richard. So correct me if I'm wrong, or at least affirm it and talk more about it. It's because our candidates are good candidates. They understand the issues. It seems like good people. They come from the people that they're representing. But most importantly, man, they are listening to what the voters are saying they need to be acted on. Am I crazy, or am I even in the stadium?
No, you're spot on. The number one priority for Democrats in Minnesota, and should be for Democrats across the country, is listening to voters. We have to listen to voters. We have to learn what their priorities are, and then only then can we ask them to lead, right, to vote for our candidates in the election. That is so critical. Every survey that we take these days, voters are asked, what are you most frustrated about in politics? And they say, candidates and politicians have just stopped listening to whether or not I matter, whether or not my viewpoint actually will impact what they will do when in office. And so I tell our candidates all the time, make sure that you're emphasizing using your listening ears instead of just talking at people. We have to listen to what their priorities are. So I think that's the number one priority. And I think that's a recipe for success at the ballot box in November.
It's a recipe across the country, and I don't care. And help us understand something here for a second before I make a statement. I want to ask this question about this. Is it a perceived or is it a reality, this sort of DSA versus progressive versus moderate? I'll use those three markers in our party right now. If we were to say that's the tent is there, why is it being made up by the external forces that want to see us in division, or is it real? Give us an assessment as a chair, as a party leader in that space.
Well, first of all, one of my political heroes was Paul Wellstone, and he tragically died in a plane crash in 2002.
Yep.
In his final campaign. And I have to tell you, I sat down with some of his top leadership about a month ago to talk about this "quote unquote" divide within our party. One of the things that struck me was when I raised this question, they all started laughing, and they said, "Well, this is the debate we were having 30 years ago. Is the party being pulled too far left?" Right. And that was the conversation 30 years ago. What I would say is this: we are a Big Ten party, and no element of this big tent is pulling us in one direction or another. There's no question that Minnesotans, that American citizens, that people in this country are deeply frustrated by the status quo. And so what we are feeling is an element of the electorate saying the status quo is not acceptable, and we need change. We need fighters in public office who are going to do everything they can to change the direction of this country, to change the direction of our healthcare system, to change the direction of forever increasing costs because of what Trump is doing to the economy, the Iraq war, tariffs, the big ugly bill, everything. They are deeply frustrated, and that is the pull we feel. I think the DSA element in our party is a very minor element. I'll be honest with you. They're part of the coalition. And what I say to people is, if you identify as a democratic socialist and you support our platform on the DFL side, you are welcome to join our coalition, just as if you're an independent and this year you're deeply frustrated and you want to vote for Democrats, join our coalition. We need everybody to make sure that this change takes place.
See, that's the conversation. And I wanted to ask you, of all people, that because of the state of Minnesota and its history, and just because oftentimes, Richard, and I know you know this as a leader, a selected and elected leader, that the talking points don't come from us. And I say this so often on my show, they don't come from us. That's not what we're saying. It's what they're saying that should be said by us or through us, they being any of our opposition. And typically that's going to be those that are on the right. So I'm glad to hear you sort of say, listen, it is a big tent. Everybody's got a voice. But now that we're in this part of the game, I go back to a great phrase from Magic Johnson. When the Lakers, he used to say fourth quarter is winning time. And right now we're about to enter the fourth quarter of this election cycle. So let's get our heads right and go get this thing done. So I wanted to hear that from you. As someone that's in this leadership role with one of the most impactful handful of elections that are going on right now. Let's talk about that, because I have got to just make the comment. I know that you've got some statements, but it's kind of old that a person who's running for a leadership office, a U.S. Senate seat, would spend their time attacking the people of a state. And I'm speaking specifically of Michelle Tafoya. Embarrassed to admit, provincial state, take less trips to Starbucks. Okay, you got the baton.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I've never seen a candidate for statewide office talk down to the people she hopes to represent in the United States Senate. Calling us a provincial state, telling us that we just need to have a stiff upper lip when it comes to the war in Iran and the increase in gas prices. And if we want to meet the moment and be patriotic, we should just take one less trip to Starbucks in order to pay for that next tank of gas. She is so out of touch. She doesn't have a clue what real Minnesotans are facing. The cost pressures are real, and it's hurting families. It's hurting their pocketbooks. They're making real decisions about, what kind of food can I put in my grocery cart today? And when they get to the checkout, some have to put things back on the shelf. That's very real. And if you go to food shelves in Minnesota these days and you ask people what they do for a living, they're not unemployed. Mm-hmm. They are working full-time jobs, and they're relying on the food shelf to get through the rest of the month. because they can't afford to pay for groceries in the store. That's the real experience of people. Yet Michelle Tafoya, who's running for U.S. Senate in Minnesota, who's this sideline reporter, sports reporter, and has nothing but a talking point for us. She is talking down to Minnesotans every single day. There's not a bigger hater of Minnesota than Michelle Tafoya. Last weekend, a new meme broke out online,
Yeah.
and it was Michelle Tafoya is so un-Minnesotan, right? And in Minnesota, we're famous. If there's one last piece of cake, we will cut it 15 different ways and still leave a little sliver. And people said last week, Michelle Tafoya is so un-Minnesotan that she calls it tater tot casserole.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, we call it tater tot hot dish.
I know, man. I didn't want to spoil your line on that, but it's just great, and it's so cool to see how you and other leaders in the state are fighting so hard right now. And I gave a shout out earlier because of a story at Heartland Signal digital platform about what AG Ellison is doing in terms of the extradition of the agent that shot the citizen through their door. I've been telling people for the longest time, you got to stop messing with us in the Midwest. We will come back after you. We will do the thing that's to represent the people that have put us in a position of leadership or responsibility. So it's great to see what you're doing. It's great to see what A.T. Ellison is doing. And that fight is important to us right now.
Absolutely.
Chair, we're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the other side of that Senate race in terms of Ms. Flanagan, and I want to talk about Senator Klobuchar and her run. We'll talk a little bit about the trifecta, how we want to get that back, all that good stuff that Minnesota's doing right now. Let's take a quick break, though. The number is 773-763-9278. I'm Richard Chu. Keep it locked in for more of Chu's Views. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in, this is Chu's Views, and I'm Richard Chu. Thanks for being with us this morning. We are talking with Minnesota's DFL party chair, Richard Carlbom, and as always, our state leaders, our chairs, are doing the work to get things done. We had on earlier in the week Anderson Clayton, who is in a similar role down in North Carolina, getting a head nod from Richard right now. Let me ask this question, then we'll get into the candidates. What's your relationship? Because I got a text from one of our listeners. What is your relationship with other party chairs, and how are you guys coalescing, working together to make sure that you're sharing ideas? Maybe I'm answering my own question, but how are y'all getting along? What are you all getting done?
That's a great question. We are part of an association of Democratic State Committees, the ASDC, and we meet 4 times a year. We have monthly meetings on Zoom, and then we meet as a Midwest regional group as well once a month. And so we actually have a large amount of collaboration among our state party chairs, executive directors, and vice chairs. We all serve on different committees together. And one of the things that Minnesota's done actually in leading in this space is we've actually, when I was elected chair, I hired somebody who was called our director of special projects, kind of our innovation person. And we've been innovating a lot of different things to the point where Jane Klebb, our president of the ASDC, the Association of State Democratic Committees, asked us to host a once a month collaboration hub meeting where all state parties are welcome to send their staff. And then we feature projects that different states are taking up. In Florida, we featured a project in Florida that they are innovating when it comes to small donor outreach. In Utah, it was a whole finance approach. We've featured, direct voter contact and social media approaches in different states. And so we are trying to elevate the states are the laboratory of democracy, right? That was the intention of this country. Well, our state parties are the laboratory of elections. And so we're trying to do everything we can to lift up the great ideas that our states are innovating in, the different projects and ideas they're innovating. We're lifting those up to make sure that other states are aware and they can adopt them as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear that action going on and that planning and that vision. One of the things I heard yesterday or the day before is that, I mean, it's not something that it's new to us, that the Republicans have an excessive amount of more money that's being given to them through different PACs and whatnot, and, uber wealthy individuals and businesses that want to keep the status quo that we have right now in place. But I heard that even though we may not have the same amount of money in this particular cycle, what matters is that we have the money in the right places and we're using it at the right time. And what are your thoughts around that?
Well, in Minnesota, we say it's all about the many over the money. The many people showing up and taking control of their own democracy is more important than all the money that the billionaires can dump into the system for Republicans. We have one Republican billionaire in Wisconsin who has spent already $3.5 million on the governor's race in Minnesota, trying to buy that office for the Republican Party for the first time in decades. And we in Minnesota are very well aware that we want no cheesehead out of Wisconsin to try and buy the governor's office in Minnesota for Lisa Demuth. And so we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the people of Minnesota, the many, overcome the money.
Well, and to that end, let's talk about the two biggest races, and they're all important, so nobody take that the wrong way. But the two races that have been highlighted the most are the governor's race there in Minnesota. Obviously, Senator Klobuchar is our Democratic nominee. And, she's a real player. She's a nationally recognized name. There's no question about that. People know who she is. She's run for president, et cetera. Her competitor, candidly, is a lightweight. And once again, someone that doesn't really get it for the citizens of the state of Minnesota, and frankly, for the folks throughout the rest of the country. Talk a little bit about the contrast there. And I know you're not going to rest on your laurels, but talk a little bit about that with that race.
Well, first of all, Senator Amy Klobuchar is one of the hardest working politicians I've ever seen in my career. This is an astounding stat. She visits every single one of our 87 counties every single year. And that has been a priority since she first got elected in 2006. Minnesotans know that she stands with them. She fights alongside them. She understands their priorities, and she goes to work. On the other side, we have Lisa Demuth, who is this candidate. She's the current Speaker of the House. But when she was asked a very simple question, what is one thing you disagree with Donald Trump on? In a state that experienced the retribution campaign of Donald Trump, in Minnesota, where we had 2 Minnesotans killed by federal agents, you know what she said about Donald Trump and what she disagrees with him? Well, I can't think of a single thing.
Yeah,
that's what she said. She can't think of a single thing she disagrees with Donald Trump. She supports his tariffs that are decimating our farmers. She supports his war of choice in Iran that is jacking up gas prices and hurting our farmers when it comes to fertilizer costs. And she supports the big ugly bill, which is gutting rural health care in our state and has already led to clinics closing. Republicans have already closed clinics in this state because of the big ugly bill. Yet Lisa Demuth says, well, I can't think of a single thing she disagrees with Donald Trump on.
And it's another rubber stamp, just like Tafoya would be in the Senate, just another rubber stamp. And trash talking Minnesotans along the way, stepping on Minnesotans to get to that next level. Just for what purpose? To be another rubber stamp. And during the break, we came up with another word that we're going to use when we speak about women who were following Trump, lapdogs. This being another lapdog to Donald Trump. I guess I must be predicting this. Dr. El Sayed in Michigan is running against Mike Rogers and is referred to him as another rubber stamp. A lot of the folks, in fact, most of the Republicans that are running for national offices throughout the country are just going to be a rubber stamp because, Chair Carlbom, when they're asked that question that you just put out, their response is a milquetoast answer. It's not. There's no substance to it whatsoever, and that's why I'm so proud of what you guys are doing in the state as a representation of how we can lead. Talk a little bit about Ms. Flanagan and her race, since we're giving our candidates their flowers.
Absolutely. Peggy Flanagan has been a leader in this state for 2 decades. Minnesotans know her well as our lieutenant governor. She started the fight when she was the president of the Children's Defense Fund. She started the fight for paid family medical leave. That fight took over a decade. Mm-hmm. And in 2023, the Walz-Flanagan administration delivered on that when the Democrats were able to pass legislation. And paid family medical leave is a reality in Minnesota because Peggy Flanagan started the fight over a decade ago. She led the fight in Minnesota for raising the minimum wage and indexing it to inflation. These are the things she's done to make life more affordable for Minnesotans. Universal school meals, like all these things that we are so proud of in Minnesota. Peggy Flanagan was part of making sure that they could happen for the citizens. So she's a leader that I think Minnesotans are greatly appreciative of and will back her. And most importantly, they see her as somebody who will be with them. Like Peggy Flanagan is with Minnesotans, while Michelle Tafoya is with Donald Trump. It's that simple. The choice in November is crystal clear. Every chance Peggy Flanagan has had to make a decision between should I stand with Minnesotans or should I go stand with Donald Trump, she stood with Minnesotans. And every single time Michelle Tafoya has been given a choice, do I stand with Minnesotans or stand with Donald Trump? She stands with Donald Trump. The choice is crystal clear in this race, and we're really excited about Peggy. She's a hometown girl. She's somebody who is Minnesotan through and through. She's from the White Earth Nation, actually, one of the 11 tribal communities, sovereign nations in our state. And they're very, very proud of her Native American heritage. And I got to recently have dinner with Chairman Fairbanks of the White Earth Nation, and he was just so incredibly proud. You know, these are small tribal nations, and so they all know each other.
Yep.
And I bumped into somebody on the reservation, and I was saying I'm here to talk about the election coming up, and I said Peggy Flanagan's running, and the person lit up and he literally goes, "Well, her dad is my uncle." And I said, "That makes her your cousin. That's amazing."
And you, by bumping into this person, Chair Carlbom, you became a cousin as well. That's how we roll in Chicago. You bump into somebody that's a cousin of somebody, you just get pulled into that family. So good on you. I say this as respectfully and humbly as I can. We are so proud of folks like you who are leading from the front. As an old business coach of mine said to me 3 decades ago, you lead from the front. And that means you take some of the bruises and you take some of the hits, but you do that with the care for the people that have decided that they're going to follow you, if you will. So kudos to you and your team for that, and spreading that to other chair party heads throughout the country, because like you said, people want to see that because it does give them a reason to come out of the silo, a reason to say, you know what, I got to get off the sidelines this time and get involved. What are some closing thoughts that you can leave for our audience here in Illinois, here down in North Carolina, there in Minnesota, and throughout the rest of the country?
Well, first of all, thank you. That's deeply meaningful. I appreciate that. And it's an honor to serve in this moment. This job couldn't be more meaningful than it is right now. The parting comment is this: we have 75 days. Get out there and knock a door. Have a conversation with a voter. Really make sure that you are doing everything you can to get out of your own bubble and connect with people in real life, at the grocery store, at work, in line at the gas station, wherever you happen to be, at the dog park. Find a way to have a conversation. People are concerned about the chaos and confusion that continues to come out of Washington every single day. And the antidote for that is to simply be in communication with your fellow citizens about the stakes of the election on November 3rd. We have 75 days. We have to have as many conversations as we can and make it deeply relational. Here's my tip. When you want to start a conversation, just look at somebody and go, "Hey, how's it going? What are you most concerned about these days?" And when you do that, instead of launching into why your candidate is the best candidate, when you ask somebody how they're doing and what they're concerned about, it will start a fruitful conversation.
It's surprising, but they'll probably tell you what the answer to that question is if you lead with that. So, Chair Carlbom, thanks for being with us. We will have you back again. We're shouldering up. We got to get our 5 the Great Lakes states back on chart. So we appreciate the leadership that you've shown to the state and to the rest of the country. And we look forward to having you back again soon, okay?
Thank you so much. Have a great morning.
You too. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.